matchup against the rival Ravens in the week after the 5-1 Cowboys pay a visit to the Steel City. So the Steelers are in first place in the AFC North at 4-2. But will they survive, Max, with Landry Jones at the helm?
I think so. And if you look at their record in the coming weeks, you have the Patriots coming up. That's a loss with a backup quarterback, let's face it. Then you have a bye. Then you got the Ravens, Cowboys, and Colts. I'm going to skip the Browns for a second. I'm saying with a backup quarterback, let's say he's out 6 weeks. Ravens, Cowboys at home, and at Colts, I'm going to say you're going to win one of those 3 games. I don't think that's being overly generous. I think that's realistic. You're going to win one of those 3 games, and you're going to beat the Browns. That's 2 wins in your next 5 games, and then you get Ben Roethlisberger back. You're okay. And here's the thing about Landry, Stephen A. Smith. They spent a 4th-round pick on him. And when they drafted him several years ago, the idea was not that one day he's going to take over for Ben Roethlisberger. The idea is they wanted to draft a competent backup quarterback. You know, there are some guys who get drafted thinking this is going to be our backup. He's going to be well-versed in all the things we want to do, our system. And if our guy goes down with an injury and he has to miss a couple games, 3-4 games, or something like that happens, we have a guy who can come in and basically run things the way we want him to run them. Now, if you're the Steelers, and we've heard Mark Schlereth on this show talk about not just drafting guys, but drafting and development. What kind of franchise do you have? The Steelers have a good one. They draft, and then they develop them into real players. I think the assumption should be from Steelers fans, certainly, that if this was the plan, 4th-round pick on a backup quarterback, then they have developed him to the point where he can now do his job, especially when you have the kind of weapons they have on offense, a good offensive line, very good offensive line, and a great wideout and a great running back. All those things should help them. I'm saying right now, if Roethlisberger's out 6 weeks, they got at least 2 wins in their next 5 games, plus the bye. There's your 6 weeks.
Well, I get where you're coming from with that, but to me, here's where the question lies, because I'm looking at Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams, and I'm thinking that Todd Haley, and knowing that Mike Tomlin is smart enough to get that man the ball, Le'Veon Bell. I'm thinking about Antonio Brown, who's looking to get more than a $4 million raise that he got this season, and he's looking for a new lengthy contract. They're going to get him the ball more, him, Sammy Coates in particular. I get all of that. To me, it's more a question about what level of faith should I have in Landry Jones. And I'm here to tell you none. I've never been impressed with them. I've never liked him as a quarterback. And when I think about replacing Big Ben Roethlisberger with the requisite weapons that you have in the wide receiver spot, okay, and even with Jesse James at the tight end spot until Ladarius Green is able to come back or what have you, all right, with Marcus Wheaton, the Colts, and Antonio Brown, etc. You have too many requisite weapons where your passing game could be potent to just settle for a dude that can go in there and knows how to run your system. He needs to know how to do something. And when I think about Landry Jones from last year, 32 of 55, completed 58% of his passes. QBR was of 35. He seemed to make mistakes when he didn't need to. I didn't like his performance last year against Kansas City after he had come in from Ben Roethlisberger getting injured against Arizona, winning that game 25-13 last year. He comes in against Kansas City, albeit on the road, 16-29. For just 209 yards, threw 2 interceptions, did not look good. I watched that whole game, was very unimpressed with him. And then, Oakland, Cleveland, stuff like this. He just doesn't move me. It was the reason that Michael Vick was up in there last year. And considering the size that Landry Jones has on him, the pedigree coming from Oklahoma, having played in big games, forgive me if I expected more from this dude who's been in the NFL for 3 years playing directly behind Ben Roethlisberger. I'm not a believer in him. I'm not saying he can't get the job done. I'm saying if you ask me to take money out of my pocket and bet it on Landry Jones, I tell you to go kick rocks. I wouldn't buy it. I don't believe it.
College,
that's just me based on what I've seen from him.
In college, he got his shot because of an injury to Sam Bradford. And he was not Sam Bradford as a starter, but he was good enough, and he was inconsistent, but he was good enough to get drafted in the 4th round. For the Steelers, excellent organization to spend still a valuable draft pick. It's not a first or second rounder.
He was no Dak Prescott.
No, he was not.
I'll tell you that much.
No, for sure not. but that's why the Steelers didn't look at him as the quarterback of the future. They looked at him as a backup. If what you're arguing is that, look, he's no starting caliber championship quarterback, NFL caliber, I would agree with that. But that's not his role on the team. His role is this. If Roethlisberger gets hurt, can you come in and spell him? I'm sure they'd prefer it was 2 or 3 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks, but it is 4 to 6 weeks, and the question is, can he hold down the fort? And I don't think this is a weeding on the Cowboys last year. I think you're doing better than that if you're the Steelers. And if you're not, if this 6-game sample, 4 to 6 week sample coming up shows that he's not, then the Steelers need to move on and find another backup quarterback. But if
that's where
he's not good enough to back up in the NFL?
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. I'm saying to you, I don't like him as the backup. I wish they had another backup. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't like him as a backup at all. I have no faith in Landry Jones. I have none. I hope I'm wrong, because you know me, I'm diehard Steelers, baby, and I love me some Mike Tomlin and the crew. I don't believe in Landry Jones at all. I have no faith in him. To me, the only way the Steelers have a shot to win this game is if they run the ball 50 times. Because if it relies on Landry Jones throwing the football, I'm not confident in him at all.
Well, I mean,
I don't believe in him.
I don't think,
that's what I'm saying.
Have you seen him enough to say that? Okay, you're going to get to see him right now and make that determination.
I saw him last year. I wasn't impressed. That's the only time he's really played.
Yeah, and
so if you're asking if I've seen him enough, I mean, I can only go by what I saw, which was last year, and I wasn't impressed.
And he wasn't very impressive. But I'm here to tell you that you got 2 wins in your next 6 weeks out of 5 games. And for this Steelers team, that should be enough. That's holding down the fort more or less until Roethlisberger gets back.
If you win 2 and lose 3, that puts you at 6-5. I don't like that.
Well,
I don't like
you'd
that.
like to win every game.
Not with these weapons.
But this is the reality.
Not with these weapons. I'm saying not with these weapons. Not with these weapons. You should, if you had a quality backup, you could win more than 2 games over the next 5, in my opinion.
By the way, last year he threw a couple touchdowns to Martavis Bryant, who he doesn't have now. But he still does have Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and an offensive line. If you have that, you should have enough to beat the Browns and maybe the Colts or the Cowboys or something like that.
And he told everyone, Stephen A., don't panic. So don't panic, okay?
Who? Who said that?
Landry Jones. He told his team, don't panic.
Landry Jones. Hold it. Landry Jones actually had the nerve to have a quote?
Yeah, he's calm.
Who gave him permission? Who gave him permission? Who gave him permission to talk? Who gave him permission to talk? I mean, don't panic. I mean, we're very worried about Landry Jones. The nerve. How about just going out there and playing? Don't panic. The New England Patriots. It ain't like the Cleveland Browns or somebody coming into town. The New England Patriots are coming into town. Tom Brady is coming into town. And this man is telling us don't worry.
What backup quarterback is going to beat? Which backup quarterback is going to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots? What backup quarterback in the league is doing that?
I'm saying you may not know if you get the ball to other people. We know what Landry Jones is, I think. Let's see. I'll do that. But I'm just confessing I'm not very confident. I really am not. Not in him.
All right.
Not in him. I'm just not.
All right, enough from you two. Let's take this to the streets. With Big Ben expected to miss a month with the Steelers will they still make the playoffs? Go on Twitter now. Cast your vote. We'll share those results a little later in the show.
How does he handle the big moment?
You have to take everything into consideration. Oh, for what?
Come on, dude.
He sued everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Now we have to watch what's actually happening.
USA.
I'm good.
In the same game that Ben Roethlisberger tore his meniscus, Bart Scott, a former NFL linebacker turned CBS football analyst, made a comment at halftime calling Big Ben a, quote, drama king. Roethlisberger responded in comments to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. What did I do to deserve that? All I've ever done is keep playing and keep my mouth shut. You just have to shrug that stuff off. But I would tell him to go see John Norwig, our trainer, and check out my medical file. It's pretty thick. You can't make that stuff up. Mark Schlereth here with us. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good.
Good.
How do you feel about these comments?
Yeah.
Fair or foul?
No, I think they're foul. I mean, I think you look at the history of Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger has played injured. The one win that Landry Jones has when he's replaced Ben Roethlisberger, if you remember, he got hurt like in the fourth play of the game, and Ben Roethlisberger came back off the bench injured to play that game. I remember a game several years ago where Ben Roethlisberger had his nose broken against the Baltimore Ravens. You remember that? Where he has, and they're saying, no, there's nothing wrong here. His nose is on the side of his face. He looks like this. They're like, no, he's fine. It didn't break his nose. He actually breaks his nose, and he goes back in and plays that game. So there is, I mean, the guy has been hurt. There's no question about that he's been hurt. With that said, the guy has shown up. The guy has played. The guy has played injured. The guy has played through pain, all those things.
He's drama king. Drama king in the sense that he'll lead you on a fourth-quarter comeback. That's dramatic. Of course, and Roethlisberger, what is he, not a tough guy? Of course he's a tough guy.
Right.
We saw that from day one. But fair or foul, I don't even think it's really an issue of that. It's not correct, but is it foul? Look, Bart Scott, Baltimore Raven, period. You have to take it with a grain of salt. The really good franchises with real rivalries will train those players up in the culture of those rivalries and will make an imprint that lasts forever. Like if you talk to like Andy Pettitte today, he hates the Red Sox. That's the way you are brought up in the culture of that organization. Wisconsin and any one of those Big Ten rivalries, Michigan and Ohio State. That's the way it is. So when you have a former Baltimore Raven who's been through those battles commenting on the quarterback and it was his job to go get that guy, and that guy used to beat him in big games, and well, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Consider the source. Is it true? No, but it's a Baltimore Raven.
Right. But that's why it's foul, because it's not true. Go ahead, Steve.
But not only is it not true, that's not only is it not true, that's not something that you take with a grain of salt, and here's why. First of all, I know Bart Scott. He's a friend. I respect the hell out of him. Let me put that out there just in the interest of full disclosure. But I respectfully disagree with him here because we're playing in a day and age where every excuse under the sun can be used for guys not playing. And here's a guy, Ben Roethlisberger, that last year when he missed 5 starts, it was the most starts he has missed in any season in his career. And we all know the bevy of injuries he's been subjected to. We've seen the hits that he has had to absorb. He's 34 years of age. He's never missed more than 5 games in a season, which was last year. Prior to that, it was 4 twice. 1 year, 3. That was about it. He's been Mr. Reliable despite the punishment that has been inflicted upon him. So if you are a Bart Scott and you look at today's NFL culture, it's not that it's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. It's not like he went out and called them something, far more incendiary or anything like that. So I want to put it in its proper perspective. But I also want to say that Bart Scott is a rough rider. He's one of those dudes. He's hardcore. He comes at things that way. That's the way he played to some degree. Correct me if I'm wrong, Slereth. So the point is, knowing that and knowing how the game has transformed and how relatively soft the game today is considered to be compared to what it once was. And to watch Ben Roethlisberger withstand the test of time all of these years just by showing up and being out there and absorbing punishment in ways that most other quarterbacks have not been able to. It was surprising to me that there wasn't a greater level of a respect and appreciation for the football player that Ben Roethlisberger has proven to be from somebody like Bart Scott, who is quick to point out how soft somebody is, and he's usually right when he says it. It's just surprising to me.
No, it surprises me as well. And I understand your point about having that rivalry, but you also have to respect a guy that has done it as well as Ben Roethlisberger has done it, who has won championships and consistently carts himself out on the football field while he's injured. And a guy that has not been provided the protection that a lot of quarterbacks get provided in this day and age of the National Football League, because he is that big, he is that physical, and guys let him probably take, or officials let him take, more hits than the majority of guys. And there's several of those guys you can put in that list, guys like Ben Roethlisberger, guys like Cam Newton, that probably don't get the benefit of the doubt and take too many hits and still continuously go out there and play week in and week out. So those are the reasons. I understand the rivalry thing, and I understand, like, listen, man, me and the Raiders, I hate the Raiders with a white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns. It's just the way it is, right? I'm rooting for them to lose. But I still respect the guys who end up going out and playing on a week-to-week basis and playing hurt especially is a badge of honor in this league, and he has done that. Therefore, I don't look at him as a drama king, if you will. I just think that comment's a little bit out of bounds.
It was interesting that of all players, you think about Roethlisberger, who before he was even a great quarterback was a great football player. Like you always used to hear about that. Even if he had a bad playoff series, but then he makes a tackle in the open field in the playoffs because he's this tough football player that all the football types like. And for him to get that reputation, I think Stephen A. may be onto something. Maybe that has as much to do with the culture of protecting the quarterback and the kind of envy that can produce in other players as it does with the actual rivalry between the Steelers and the Ravens, although I think that plays into it.
No quarterback extends a play better than Ben Roethlisberger.
No, and I think there's a great point there that defensive players, have a certain disdain for the quarterback position because you do play in a red jersey. You're not allowed to hit those guys. And you want to talk about drama kings. I mean, there's a bunch of quarterbacks that are begging for flags every time. I mean, if you even look crossways at a quarterback, they're begging for a flag, and oftentimes they're getting it. I don't see Ben Roethlisberger doing that on a consistent basis.
Let's also put into perspective the job that Bart Scott has now. He is a commentator. And you do have, and I don't want to speak out of turn, Slereth, you would know this better than me, but, I always try to reach out and help brothers in this industry, white, black, otherwise, they're my brothers. I always try to help anybody that wants to get in this business and wants to do well. Anything that I can do to help, I wouldn't hesitate, Bart Scott included. But I do find that you have some players that are highly reluctant to be overtly critical. And then you have some other players that want to be very successful in this business and don't hesitate to do so because they're trying to be successful in this business. And my whole point is just be real. Be real, true, and authentic to who you are. And if you're Bart Scott, I just find it very, very difficult to believe that when the word drama queen comes into the equation,